Metal Mommy herself is walking into the armory deck like she owns the place. Steel in hand, reaction locked and loaded, she sharpened the sword and is ready to swing it twice. Does she hit hard like a sharpened blade, or is it dull like a butter knife? We're here to holla about Holla and what we think about the armory deck. I'm Will,
I'm Ning.
I'm Andrew.
and tonight, rejoining our cast, our local warrior mainstay, Chris. Thank you for coming back on board.
Hi, everybody. I didn't talk enough the first time.
No, we love it. I figured. I mean, that warrior episode went really well, so we had to bring you back on. So, all right, guys. As per our normal, what did we learn since last week? And Ning, I know you had a little bit more time at Armory. Were you able to go out Sunday and play?
No. What did I learn since last month? I haven't. So it's been on my list to play Pirate Puffin. I just haven't gotten the chance. But I have been playing Bolton a little bit these days, and that's been a good time. I've been enjoying that a lot. Yeah.
Welcome.
I see.
Sorry.
I see Andrew judging you hard.
Bro, Bolton's the coolest warrior. Okay, he's
pretty cool. But all right, Andrew, what about you? What did you learn since last week?
In regards to Flesh and Blood, very little. In regards to other things, I learned that Chattanooga has cats that you can just pet. That was pretty fun.
Did you see the billboard that said cats? And then the next time it said 30 cats. And you said they had how many cats now?
Oh god, I think it was like 37 or 47. It was a lot of cats.
That number.
Dude, he said he was going to go check out the cat cafe. I mentioned it in passing. I was like, and you're the first one that took people on the offer. He's like, oh, that's only an hour away. I was like,
yeah.
And he's like, it's worth it. Man, I got the best pictures with him, like with the cats. It's great, dude.
Make a thumbnail of it one day.
Yeah, we should. Hey, Chris, how about you?
Well,
I didn't get to play Fab this last week, but I got to learn that LSS Remembered Olympia exists, so that was fun.
Pretty cool.
I'm so happy about that. We're going to talk about those spoilers next week. Man, I'm so glad I got on the Olympia train like a long time ago. I was like, my time is coming. It's coming, guys.
I'm so glad I got on the Olympia train. Has said no one ever.
Look. I see myself in Olympia. Right, the way he just walks with pride, like he owns the battleground. Yeah, that's me. And he might be shit doing it, but at least he's like he walks with that confidence, right?
Like the problem is the train was always there; it just never left the station, so anybody could have gotten on the train.
Yeah.
So hey, cars were cheap, and I got on. So now, yeah.
Look, there's only one hero in the entirety of Flesh and Blood who is referred to as a pay-to-lose deck, and we'll just stop there.
Well, I took Vinny back to Armory, and I went 1-2. I was happy with that result. Lost to Arachne Huntsman. We went to time. He was able to close it out. I mean, he had to win. And then I played against Tommy's Pallades, and I did the stack plan against him. Actually, it came down to one value, and I wasn't sure. I think I had the way of killing him, but time was going on, and I was like, man, I just can't connect it. So we talked about it after. I exposed my hand. I was like, well, he's got it. So we tried to walk through it, and then I think he would agree if I was to stack the order correctly, I could have closed out the game and took the victory. But because of the way I played things, it didn't quite go as well. So, Vinny, steep learning curve, right? So, well, today we are going to talk about Hala, right? And what first is Hala trying to do? I guess the first thing we should probably do is kind of cover what her hero power is. Ning, do you want to start us off since we haven't heard your beautiful voice in such a long time and reading what Hala, Blade Saint of the Vow, actually does?
Yeah. However, give me a second because that's blurry for me. So I'm going to pull it up on my side.
Don't worry.
There.
I like to say this is all like a plan because we're actually going to do the set review again. We're all going to drink, and over the course of 4.5 hours, you'll see who gets the most drunk at the end of it.
All right. So Hala, Blade Saint of the Vow. Warrior hero with 40 health and intelligence of 4, intellect of 4. As an action, pitch 3 and tap. Sharpen target sword you control. Go again. So sharpen is just a new keyword where you put a +1 counter on the sword, and then at the end of the turn, you remove all +1 counters.
And then I guess the next thing we got to kind of cover is their attached weapon cards are so important to their hero ability, right?
Yeah.
Yep. It is her only specialization, so.
Okay.
Yeah.
And Andrew, why don't you go ahead and give this a read?
Yeah, so her weapon is Zenith Blade. It's a 2-handed sword. Costs free. Once return action, you pay 1 to attack with it. And if it's been sharpened this turn, its first attack this turn gets go again.
Okay.
Did you say it costs 3 or it swings for 3?
Swings for 3. It costs 1.
Yes.
So yeah, it's a simple 1 for 3 weapon that has a pretty cool ability.
Yeah.
Like at the very least, with your hero, you're able to just go activate Hala, swing Zenith Blade for 4, go again, and then do something with your 2 remaining resources at minimum.
Yeah, I kind of like to think of Hala and Zenith Blade as like the reverse Dorinthia, whereas Dorinthia, she gives you the second swing, but you have to play cards to solve the problem of how to get it go again. Hala has the opposite problem. She gets go again basically for free, and her problem is how to get the second swing. So it's kind of a weird... It feels like they took another swing at Dorinthia and went the other direction with it, so it's just always kind of funny.
It's like a crappy student, where you are supposed to learn how to do what your mentor did, and you're like, no, we're just going to do the opposite. I'm going to rebel.
I think Dorinthia is the student of Holla.
Yes.
Yeah.
She is. I think the lore is that she was like a blacksmith girl, got magically chosen by Dawnblade, went out and killed a bunch of brutes.
Shameful.
Got indoctrinated by Solana.
Very cool. So what's Holla trying to do? Is she aggro mid-range? I know Warrior's plan is mostly control mid-range, right? But it seems like she could kind of swing her sword twice. So what's your main shtick here?
She's pretty firmly in mid-range. For the most part, her ceiling turns are not, super high. She can definitely get some big numbers. In testing, I've been able to get a few big numbers. But like I've said this before, I think I said this on the Warrior podcast, the best Warrior card still is just Valiant Dynamo. It is the class's identity strong piece at this point, which means and Valiant Dynamo is inherently better the longer a game goes. So Hala, like most of her deck, if not all of her deck, is going to end up blocking 3 or more. She can swing for large numbers, but she's not going to be explosive. You're not putting up 25 to 30 damage turns with this character. At least not unless you're doing something really whack. And I mean, maybe. I don't know. Someone will find a way, I'm sure. But for the most part, she's just really good at playing anywhere from 4 to 3 to 2 to 1 card hands conveniently, which means you block as you need to and you attack as you need to. Pretty firmly in mid-range is what I'd say.
Yeah.
And what makes her unique from the other warriors? Other than every warrior to me seems like they do the same thing. Or sorry, they do everything differently they do everything a little bit differently using the same card pools, and their weapons and types like that kind of change things up. So does the Zenith Blade make her and her hero power? Is she so far unique from the other warriors? What they're trying to do? Like, is she still using the Valiant Dynamo plans? Is she still doing a lot of the attack reactions to kind of blow up her sword, get over? Like, what's your main thing here?
I guess I can go again.
Yeah, whoever wants to jump in.
Her play patterns are different than the other warriors, and how she accomplishes her game plan is different than the other warriors. But functionally, her actual game plan itself isn't really that different from other warriors. You're trying to swing twice as much as you can. You're blocking when it's relevant. You're trying to get over with attack reactions to get lethal if it ever pushes to that stage of the game, or if your opponent's a very defensive deck. She's very much like Dorinthia if you took away the snowballing aspect of Dawnblade, but instead just made double swinging more consistent.
Okay. So she's not having the snowball effect like you would get with the Dawnblade. Once you get 2 or 3 tokens on it, you're freaking owning face a lot of the times. With this, it's just you're not getting that high-end results, but you're just going to go ahead and be more consistent across the board, right? So she starts off a little bit stronger than Dorinthia, but her ceiling's not as high, or her pop-off turns aren't as high. Is that kind of what I'm hearing?
She's going to be less punishing, and she's going to be slightly worse against aggro decks. Because one of Dorinthia's big thing is if the opponent's deck doesn't want to block, Dorinthia just scales almost indefinitely, or at least until your opponent runs out of health. It's always made it so she can race the faster decks. Hala's going to be a bit slower because she can't do that, but in exchange, she still has like probably better average damage numbers that are less dependent on your opponent's blocks than Dorinthia. Because Dorinthia, if your opponent blocked the first swing, you're stuck. You lose anywhere from 3 to 6 points of damage. Hala, nothing about Hala's turn is dependent on her opponent. It's just she's fully playing with herself. So it's more consistent turn by turn damage. You're less bothered if your opponent blocks you, but you don't have that if your opponent's just not blocking and you're both just trying to trade no block hands. Dorinthia is going to be a little bit better.
Gotcha. Okay. Well, I guess since we're going to talk about the Armory Deck review, I guess what we should do is cover her equipment suite that's kind of coming in an Armory Deck. A couple of the key cards that we noticed from the Armory Deck. You could briefly mention the cards that are not worth mentioning, just kind of group them together as, and then we can kind of talk about that more. But definitely talk about the highlights of the cards that are unique to this deck. and then we could just kind of pick out the few we looked at, and I'll grab the headpiece and we can just go straight down the way it looks here. So anticipating gaze.
I just want to say real quick, I think all of the cards in the Armory deck are unique.
Oh, is that true?
I believe all of them are new.
Yes, I believe he's correct. I think literally
Which is really cool for an Armory deck.
So this must be it's like Gravy Bones Origins, right? Is it going to be the higher price tag?
It's closer to Jarl Origins, I think.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, but it does have a slightly higher cost.
Gotcha.
Than the normal Armory decks.
Well, guys, it looks like we will be reviewing all the cards. So if that's the case,
just to temper expectations for you.
Yeah,
no, that's great, man.
Some of them are a bit faster or can be glossed over more. I've already heard Andrew's opinions on the equipment, so.
Okay, well, we'll just go ahead and each take a card like this is going to be a set review in the same order that we have on our screen here. So me, Ning, Andrew, then you, Chris. And I'll start with Anticipating Gaze. This is a Warrior Equipment head. It's a 2-block. When a sword attack you control hits, you may remove a +1 counter from the sword. If you do, destroy this and draw a card. This also has Blade Break. So what's this do?
It blocks 2 and has Blade Break.
Yeah, it's you're either turning this into a card draw, which is going to get you in this deck like it's about 3 points of value, or you're blocking 2. So it's getting between 2 to 3 points of value, which I mean, not bad as a starting if you're just starting into Flesh and Blood. Probably not going to be comparable to things like Balance of Justice, Kaluto, or Crown of Providence.
Yeah, that's fair. So starter piece, but looking to upgrade probably because there's so many other better head pieces. I mean, Crown of Providence, Balance Justice, like you were saying.
Yeah, it's not the best card.
Kind of disappointing, given that the headpiece is literally her signature helmet.
Yeah, they should have like. Well, okay. Should we talk about this in context as like of other warriors, or is it still kind of crap for the other warriors?
No.
Because this is.
I think it's even worse for other warriors.
Okay.
Yeah. I think the only one that even has remote context for another one is the chest. So we'll see.
Yeah.
Okay.
Next is Paragon Plate, the warrior chest. It is a legendary. It blocks 2, has temper. As attack reaction, you would tap it, remove a +1 counter from the attacking sword you control, and then you gain 1 resource. So I think this is interesting because it's an attack reaction and not like an instant where you can do it after damage is dealt. You basically have to decide, do I want to deal 1 less damage to gain 1 resource, or let something through for whatever reason. But I think it's interesting enough to allow you to use up all your cards to do the first swing, and then you can use this to remove 1 counter and then get to swing a second time.
I think once we get into Holla's play patterns, I think it will become a little bit more obvious why you'd probably prefer Grains of Blood Spill to this chess piece. But it does open up some interesting play lines, and maybe someone's got something figured out that I don't have. I mean, at the floor, it's a temper 2, which puts it on par blocking with Wise with Grains of Blood Spill. So maybe there's some interesting play lines that I'm not thinking about that this could make use of. Play some 4 mana turns or 4 energy turns.
Yeah. I mean, this Paragon Plate seems more immediate, where the Grains of Blood Spill. Why does this keep on coming up?
It's your death touch, Will.
Well, the funny thing is, I have
such a good card.
Well, I have Grains of Blood Spill actually set up. I don't know what's going on. All right, well, Grains of Blood Spill is set up for when you hit, you pay the resource in, you create a Vigor token, so it goes into the next turn. I guess we can't card share on the rest of it. Sorry, guys. But yeah, so Paragon Plate's more of an immediate thing. But you're saying Grains of Blood Spill, possible upgrade if you need that delayed Vigor going to the next turn?
I think Grains of Blood Spill would probably end up being her final, best in slot chess piece.
Okay.
The way she plays turns, she's going to be pitched. Like, she pitches a lot. And the way she plays turns, she's going to, she doesn't always play every turn fully mana efficiently. She also doesn't always get hands that can do the swing twice thingy, which means she gets to do something really fun with Warrior, which is pitch a blue to swing with Zenith Blade for 3, and if your opponent doesn't block it, you make a Vigor, and now your next turn's better. We can get more into those playlines later. All I'm going to say is, once again, beautiful art, still a great starting piece. Maybe someone will find some playlines that make use of it. Right now, I don't think it's going to be her best in slot.
Okay.
Next, we got Reverent Rarebrace. Or something. I don't know. What is that word? Is this a real world? Hold on.
I don't know. I've never heard of Reverbrace.
Oh, it's a real word. I'm not reading that. It's a long word. Anyway, it's a block 2 of temper. And if you would sharpen a Zenith blade, instead you can pay 1 and destroy this. If you do, you get to sharpen it an additional time. So the big thing to talk about here is at minimum it's going to block 2 and then like potentially block 1, or you can pay 1 to and give up the 1 block value to give a +1 counter that you're presumably going to swing twice with, maybe even thrice. So that's like, 2 to free value in that regard. That being said, generally I think that you're going to find Braveforge Bracers or Ironsong Versus is going to be better than this card in most situations.
Yeah. I think when you test her out, you realize there are a couple cards, specifically like Blue Edict of Steel and Yellow Edict of Steel, that do become significantly better once you hit certain amount of counters. So if you really are struggling to turn those on reliably, this can be like a get out of jail free card once per game, which isn't a bad floor. As Andrew said, I think Versus or Braveforge probably is going to end up being better. They're just more permanent long-term effects. Ironsong Versus gives you really, really good one-card hands. That hand I just described where you pitch a blue and, if your opponent lets the 3 damage hit, you figure. Well, if you do that same hand with Ironsong Versus, now it's 3 damage on hit, a figure, and a courage, which you're now really incentivizing your opponent to block. And some decks really don't want to block that. With that said, there might be some place for the Rarer Brace if people really need to turn on those extra counters, but I agree with Andrew that it's probably not where I'm probably not going to be starting with this one. I'm probably looking at Braveforge Bracers as where I'm starting as the slot.
Okay. I mean, but if you're like a limited purse strings, these are definitely good block pieces, at least with the tempers on them, and they have some upside for playing the Armory deck. All right. Well, let's talk about the Silver Strike Dodgers.
I could read this, or I could say this is draft chaff. I'll read it. It is a 1 block temper. If you control a flurry token, this gets +1. So, like on its floor, you're potentially getting 3 out of a block. Once again, not a terrible ceiling. If this was a rare, I could see this being played in Sage. But as we kind of already alluded to, Valiant Dynamos is a very good card, and this deck will turn on Valiant Dynamos very reliably. Obviously, Valiant Dynamos, at least until it gets reprinted, is still like, I don't even know, like $100-something. So if you need a budget option, this is still fine to start. Calling it draft chaff was a little bit mean. It's probably a little better. It still blocks around 3. But you're going to want to replace this with Valiant Dynamos as soon as you could reasonably do. And if you are trying to buy into the Warrior class, Valiant Dynamos gets played across multiple Warriors. And
why don't you go ahead and read the Flurry token card now, since it's kind of the first time it came up.
Who are you referring to? You just said you.
Yeah,
Me?
Chris. Yeah.
All right. When you activate a weapon attack, destroy this, you may attack with the weapon twice this turn. So, as I said before, Dorinthia kind of gives you the second swing by her hero text. Hala and Zenith Blade give you the go again for free. They don't give you the second swing. Flurry is how she gets it, and a lot of playing Hala is going to be getting and playing around these various Flurry tokens. You are probably not going to end turns with Flurry tokens very much. There are some exceptions. We can get into those when we get to the cards. A lot of times you're going to be creating the Flurry on the same turn you use it. But there are still some situations, once again, we'll get to those cards, where this could be turned on pretty reliably. The main one being a card that we'll get to called Toe of the Line. But Flurry tokens are how you get your second swing. It's worth mentioning that Flurry tokens were worded in a very careful way. They say you may attack with the weapon twice this turn, not you may attack an additional time, so you cannot stack Flurry tokens, which is just a shame. But
call it a shame. I think it was a good idea.
It's let Warrior have something broken. Come on.
All right. Let Saber's Bolton be good, man. That'd be scary.
The funny thing is, if Saber's Bolton never gets good, the counter to it would be Other Warrior, because Kabuto literally hard counters the deck.
What's the card you guys are talking about?
I don't know about Saber's Bolton.
Okay.
Saber? No.
Well, we're talking about a completely different Warrior deck. That's
okay.
Not, we're sidetracking and memeing.
Yeah, no. Instead, Will, why don't you read this new card?
Deadly Display. Well, shit. I gotta say something about this card. I like the art a lot.
I'm sure you do. I'm sure you do.
I'm not saying. Look, I'm saying this is a Deadly Display right here. Like,
Will's just a man of culture.
I wanna play this warrior, this redheaded warrior. That's why I want to play. All right. Anyways, Deadly Display only comes in red. It's a 1 cost, 2 block warrior. It does it? Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Warrior attack reaction. Warrior attack reaction. Target weapon attack gets +3 power. If the weapon has been sharpened this turn, the attack gets when this hits a hero, create a Flurry token.
And it blocks too.
Blocks too, yeah. I mean, it's warrior attack reaction that costs 1 +3, and it does her game plan. So, I'm assuming you would run 3 of.
We'll see how many we end up running. I currently have 3 of in my list. It's just an on-rate attack reaction. It lets you set up flurries, which we just established is going to be a big problem. Because just to be clear, as we're evaluating all these cards, the main 2 hurdles Hala has to jump through to do a turn is 1, she has to sharpen her sword, which either involves playing a red card that sharpens it or pitch a blue to her hero ability. That gives the sword go again. The second obstacle she has to hop through is she has to have a flurry token on that turn, preferably on the first swing. So Deadly Display is just, it helps you maintain that. It is worth mentioning that if you ever do play Deadly Display, you really want to make sure it's on the second swing so that you're not consuming the flurry with the second swing of that turn. But there are some rooms for this. If you can ever get a turn where you have that resource to do it, and there are plenty of that where the curve adds up, you do first swing, you sharpen first swing, second swing, Deadly Display usually comes in for about 7, which is an awkward number for people to block, and they can't always predict it because it's a reaction. On hit, create a flurry. Your next turn's a lot easier to turn on now. So
nice. Okay.
Just a good glue piece.
All right. Next one we have is Gleam of the Blade. It is a warrior attack reaction that blocks for 2. It costs 1, and it is a red. Target weapon attack gets +3, and as an instant, you can discard it and just create a flurry token.
Sorry, God.
No, go ahead. I mean,
they tried to create a little bit of like a Swiss Army knife card with this, in that it's like both a reaction for damage, or you can discard to get a flurry. The problem is it's below rate at literally all of the 3 things it does. It's below rate blocking, it's below rate as a reaction, and it's below rate if you discard it to make the flurry token. So it's one of those cases where it's like the card seems like it could be okay if you're really struggling to play your turns consistently, because it will never not be a good card on the turn. But it's also just like, the more I've played a Hala, or at least play tested her, the more I've seen that you really want to be getting at least like 4 points of value out of most of your cards. And this one will never get more than 3. It's just, I personally am skipping this card in my early builds, but it might be one I revisit if I struggle with flurry generation down the line.
So I was actually about to ask you, because I'm seeing a kind of a thing here with Hala. How many cards are you including in your deck that has a flurry token mechanic attached to it? Is it like 1 out of every 4 cards? So 15 cards on a rough average you should start your deck building with when you're thinking about expanding upon the Armory deck later? I know we're talking about the Armory deck review currently, but like, you kind of need your flurry tokens to kind of do your game plan, right? So
yeah, I am currently on like 15 ones I'm like happy to play, and then another 6, so 2 copies of 3 in the blue base that are like backups. Once again, if that ends up not being enough, I would come back to this as one of the first cards I'd add in. But right now, I have not really. All I'm going to say is, having not included this card in my deck, I've not really felt it. It's not exactly been a painful one to be missing. So we'll see. Maybe it makes the list, maybe it doesn't.
Okay. Well, as a rare, you could probably put it on the sideboard or put it as the future maybes, right? All right.
I mean, future maybe, because let's be honest, Warrior sideboard is already pinched as heck.
But yeah, next we have our first Majestic from the actual cards in the deck, Polished Blade. It's a red 0-cost free block attack reaction. As an additional cost to play this, remove 1 or more +1 counters from an attacking sword on the active chain link. Choose that many modes +1. The first mode is Sword Attack gets go again. Second one is you may attack with the sword an additional time. And third one is your next attack with the sword costs 1 less to activate. So this is a fun card to talk about because it does a lot of things. And it doesn't really do any of them like super duper well, but kind of at the same time.
Do you know how many in the deck you get? Do you get 3 of? Because I don't see this being a 3 of playing, right? I don't know, Chris. Would you play all 3 copies of Polished Blade?
I would play 0 copies.
Yeah.
Andrew has heard me rant about this, but Polished Blade, I was just talking about how we want to get at least like around 4 points of value per card we play. Yeah. If we have to settle for 3, we have to settle for 3. That's fine. Polished Blade, I just kept testing it out in play turns, both in my head and on February as I did draw 4s, and the card never got more than 2 points of value, which as a Majestic is not where you want to be. Because we'll get to this when we get to like the actual Heart and Soul card of the deck, which is coming up in about 3 cards.
Okay.
But the fact of the matter is, if you just cast it because if you don't take any counters off, you just get 1 mode. So you can take off you can get the additional attack, or you can get the go again, or you can get the next sword free. I don't know why you'd ever choose the next sword free. You might as well pitch it at that point. If you do that, ideally you're probably doing it because you really need the second swing. You've done the second swing. Okay, let's say my hand is 2 blues, polished blade. I sharpen it. I swing for 4, go again. I play polished blade to swing again. I swing for 4. I've swung for a 3-card 8 and plus Valiant Dynamo. That's terrible value. And then even as you add more and more counters and more modes to the sword, you start to realize that taking away counters in the reaction step means it's actively removing damage from your ceiling to accomplish its goals. This card to me reads very similarly to Lumina Lance, if you're familiar with that light card from Dusk Till Dawn, in that you look at it and it reads like it could be good, and then you play it and you realize the cost of playing it, even though it costs nothing, is so high that none of the modes actually become worth it.
So I read this card a little differently, and I'm not saying it's good. I'm just saying, like, I don't know if it's good or bad. I'm like with you, Chris. But you swing once, you swing twice, and on the second swing, you remove both counters on it to swing it a third time, because it's just going to be a way to swing wider. But at that point, it's not worth it, right?
Well, like, let's just do the math of what you just said. Let's say you get 2 counters on the blade. You swing for 5, go again. You've done 5 damage.
Yeah.
You swing for 5 again. You play this, you remove 2 counters during reaction steps, so you lose 2 points of value. Swing for 3. So currently you're negative 2 points in value. You then swing for 3 at the end of the turn for the last swing, which puts you back up to positive 1, which means playing this card got you 1 point of value on this turn.
Gotcha.
Okay. At which point, like, any attack reaction that's just a 0 for 3, like the card I compared, like, it just said, like, if it can't beat this, it's not worth playing, is Sharpened Steel, which is a warrior card that is a 0 for 3, a 0 cost action that just says give your next weapon attack plus 3 damage. And in no situation that I tested Polished Blade did it ever get above 3 points of value. In fact, it mostly got 2 and below. And the more I thought about it like that, the more I realized, why is this card a majestic?
Gotcha.
It's got very pretty art.
Yeah. Yeah, like I think In the Swing is like better for closing out games.
Yes.
And then also like Unsheathed is better for like getting that third action point to do something with.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, hopefully this will rinse that bad taste out of your mouth.
Here you go, Chris.
All right. Silver Drop Downpour. This is a 2-cost attack reaction. Target weapon gets +4. If the weapon has been sharpened this turn, this costs 1 less to play, and it blocks for 2. So I am mixed on this card right now. On the one hand, it accomplishes my goal of being able to get 4 points of value. We like that. And as a 1 for 4 reaction on a turn you sharpened, that's nice. The problem is blocking 2 means on the turns you don't want to go wide, it becomes a liability. And on, like, you're already so kind of tied to your Fury generators and your Sharpened generators that this card kind of accomplishes neither. So this is one of those ones where it's like, it's nice. Maybe it fits in the deck if you can find room and you really need more reactions. But like, I look at this and I then look at something like, if I'm going to be swinging twice, Blade Flurry, I would rather have Blade Flurry. And Blade Flurry is a 0 for 4 effectively. And it blocks 3. So as a common, I think this is fine. And if I really need more reactions to close out a game, I'm probably going to look at this card. But the fact that this doesn't block 3 really hurts it, because this is one of those cards where on the mat, like in matchups where you need to block, you can't be playing this card. Like, you can't be greedy like this. So
I think it's highlighting the Valiant Dynamo tax really well, because I think the guys at LSS are probably thinking the same thing. Man, she really uses Valiant Dynamo really well, but we can't have her blocking for 4 across the board because that's just too good. So what do? We take the key cards that she needs, and let's just reduce the defensive value by 1, because we know she's going to get the Valiant Dynamos. So I feel like they played around with that, which is a great design. I mean, it is a common, like you said, but don't you have that feeling like this is a third card that we've seen that all kind of blocks for 2, and it just screams to me like Warriors traditionally block fairly well at 3 points per card, usually, right? What's your thoughts on that before we continue on so far? So far, I'm getting mixed reviews on the attack reactions, but let's going back to you guys.
The cards are about to start getting better, so don't.
Okay.
Yeah, the attack reactions are like easily the worst cards in this deck. Like,
fair.
One thing I think about Hala is that she's very much about just having really good math and not thinking about like killing your opponent with these attack reactions until like it's actually lethal.
Man, maybe Fink spoiled me, man. But I'm looking forward to Holla. So
I mean, it's worth mentioning, like to Andrew's point, that Hala doesn't like. So far, we've only presented a single on hit this entire time. And that's Deadly Display.
yeah.
And spoilers, that's the only on hit in the entire deck. Because she doesn't have on hits, playing a pre-buff or like face buff that gives you 4 points of value is worth roughly the same as getting 3 at reaction speed.
Okay.
Or is worth more than getting 3 at reaction speed, because the reaction speed stuff, unless you're trying to close out the game, usually doesn't matter quite as much. There's still, I think the deck will still have some reaction speed stuff, but because she's more raw numbers and because she doesn't really care if she actually hits you or not with her turns, she tends to play more raw math than tricksy stuff.
As a warrior, do you think that's better or worse if it's just pure math?
On the one hand, it's better, like just raw numbers. Like a lot of decks that are good, where they're not dependent on hitting their opponent for value, can do good if they hit past a certain ceiling. The problem is in Flesh and Blood, a lot of these decks, like unless you're just like Zen, where you get to play by yourself and do all your stuff and explode, dealing slightly higher than average damage per turn uninteractively tends not to be top tier in Flesh and Blood. So it's hard to really say, because like as we just said, her damage number is more consistent than like Dorinthia, but Dorinthia really had that gimmick where if your opponent doesn't want to block you, you will punish them for that. Like that she makes people sweat, and Hala doesn't have that.
Okay. All right. Well, let's go back to the Brimming Blade. You said I'm underwhelmed so far, so let's see these front pumps. Brimming Blade is a 1-cost red, warrior action, 3 block, thank God. Sharpen target sword you control twice, put 2 +1 power counters on it, remove all +1 counters on it from the end of the turn, go again. Okay, so it kind of triggers what she needs to do with the Zenith Blade. 3 of is what I'm assuming right now. I mean, it's lesser value, but also targets the go again naturally at 5, then 5 again if you could find a way to.
Yeah, if you have the
give it go
flurry,
again.
this is basically a 1-for-4 go again.
Yeah. I mean, even potentially more. We'll get into the combos this card works with, but yes, this is in my current list. This is a 3 of. Yeah. And spoilers, I think this is the only playable Majestic in the entire deck, or at least the only good one. But this card, like as Andrew said, on its floor, if you get the go, if you have the flurry, is a 1-for-4 go again, which is where we want to be. We said we want 4 points of value.
Yeah.
It blocks for 3 in situations we don't. And when we get to the next card on this list, which is the heart and soul of Hala's deck, the synergies will immediately become apparent with this card. But right now, Brimming Blade to me, I didn't realize it was Majestic when I first looked at it. Something about the art just didn't feel Majestic to me. But the card itself is solid. It's a big synergy piece for her. It blocks for 3 when you don't want it. And it can get above 8, which is exactly where we want to be. So happy with this one.
So I got to say, Deadly Display had the Majestic art that I like. And then Brimming Blade, you're right. I mean, I like the feeling of the guy. I do like this art. It just, it's a little bit on the doling colors. Anyways, Armory Deck review. I guess I'm reviewing the art piece, but I like all the art so far.
Yeah.
All right.
Pretty good.
Ning, you get the core piece.
Yeah. I get the cool one. So this actually comes in a rainbow. So Edict of Steel, it costs 0 to play. It is an action card and blocks for 3. And so the core of the text says sharpen target a sword you control, so you just get the +1 counter. And the difference between red, yellow, and blue is red says if it has 1 or more +1 counters, create a flurry token. And then blue says if it has 3 or more +1 counters, create a flurry token. So it's just a matter of having 1, 2, or 3 counters to get the flurry token, and you get to go again.
Now, before you go on, Ning, Chris, how hard is it to get 3 +1 counters on your sword?
Well, we literally just covered a way to do it with Brimming Blade.
Yeah.
The short answer is for the blue. The blue is obviously the hardest to play, and even it is. I found it's consistent enough to get it to 3 counters, at least in the list I'm running, that I will consider arsenaling it as one of my best arsenal targets.
Okay.
Which is really saying something, because at the end of the day, if you can hit those counter marks, all 9 copies, the yellows and the blues, effectively have the same text, which is really rare for a rainbow cycle.
Yeah.
This card is, in my eyes, the card that makes Hala worth playing.
Okay.
Just breaking down the raw numbers. Let's say my hand is literally nothing but a red Edict of Steel and a blue. I play Edict of Steel. I get the Sharpen and I get the Flurry because I have 1 counter. I pitch a blue, I swing for 4, go again. I swing again for 4. So on face, I've just played a 2-card 8. I've removed 1 from Valiant Dynamo, and because I've pitched a blue and only played 2 mana on my turn, I have 1 left over, which means I can then use that extra resource for something like, say, Grains of Bloodspill, or Braveforge Bracers, or Ironsong Verses. So if you do all that math, assuming you got value out of Valiant Dynamo, and assuming you got like a Vigor off that turn, it comes out to roughly a 2-card 10, which is incredibly good math. Like, we love that. We're happy with that. It also means that if you don't want to use that extra resource sink for your armor, you can use that on something like, say, Deadly Display. So same turn, except now I have a Deadly Display in my hand. Swing for 4 into 7. 7 on hit gives a flurry. I've now swung for 11. Valiant Dynamo adds 1. We're now at 12 points of value, plus ending our turn with a flurry, which makes our next turn a lot easier to pilot. And
what would you... Sorry, Chris, go ahead.
And we're getting into some really good math. The yellow and blue are a little hard to turn on, and if there is a reason to play Hala's new arm piece, it would be to turn on the blue and yellow more consistently. That was the card I was kind of alluding to, because the arm piece lets you double sharpen for 1 resource. I still don't know if that's a good enough reason to play it, but I will definitely be trying it.
Okay.
But all I'm going to say is Edict of Steel is, like, in my eyes, the card that makes Hala above rate. It is the card that makes her worth playing.
I mean, look at the art. I mean, is this extolling her, right? So, if you kill someone with Edict of Steel, can you say, like, take... I won't say, actually. Let me go on to...
You can't kill someone with it. It's an action card.
Well, you know what I mean. Like, you don't kill anyone with action cards with warriors, really. I'm not going to go into that.
We have Sharpened Klein. This is a card that comes in both red and yellow. So the red's 0 cost, free block, and target sword you control. And then if it has 1 or more counters, your next attack with it this turn costs 1 less to activate. And as go again. The yellow is the same text, but it says 2 or more counters instead. So if this one, I'd say, like, the yellow one is not super great, but the red one is really good. It lets you have a 1-card 4 with go again, which, like, that's, like, kind of interesting in Warrior. They don't get those.
Yeah. So, I mean, the floor, as Andrew said, is a 1-card 4, but this is also just, like, another way to hit more counters. For example, if you want to hit Edict of Steel yellow, this plus Edict of Steel yellow, you're now swinging for 5 and 5, and now your 2 resources. If you pitched a blue, you now have 2 unspent resources on this turn, which means 2 Vigors, or a Vigor and a Braveforge, or potentially an attack, 1 for 3 attack reaction. If, in case it wasn't clear, this is why I said Grains of Bloodspill is probably going to be her final chess piece. A lot of these turns on Edict of Steel usually end up having 1 extra resource and saving that, but via the Vigor is really nice. Also, really cool turn I've played multiple times in playtesting. If you ever have a Vigor and a Flurry at the end of your turn, which isn't as hard to do as you think, Sharp Incline becomes a 1-card 9, because Sharp Incline makes a swing for 4. The first sword is free. Then the second sword gets swung off the Vigor, and you've now swung for 4 and 4 removed from Dynamos, and that's one of the best 1-card hands in Flesh and Blood. Huh. So there's lots of little ways Sharp Incline can help. I originally didn't have this card in my list. I then put it in and immediately regretted not having it in sooner.
Yeah, if you really spicy, you can start playing 0 cost attacks to really appease it with. But you know,
all right, Ellie.
Today.
Yeah, there has been some theory crafting of cards like Snatch and Scar for Scar in Holla. We'll see what ends up making it.
Okay, right, Chris, this one's your turn now.
Me, Swordmaster's Path. Your next sword attack, that's a 1-cost warrior action. Your next sword attack this turn gets +3. The next time you would sharpen a sword this turn, instead sharpen it an additional time. Go again, and this blocks for 3. This card comes in both red and blue, and I think this will be a 3 of in both red and blue for the deck. This is yet another way to turn on the higher cost Edict of Steels.
Yeah.
For example, a hand of a blue, Swordmaster's Path red, and yellow Edict of Steel. You play Swordmaster's Path, play Edict of Steel yellow. You get 2 counters now because you've sharpened twice off of Swordmaster's Path. You're swinging for 8 into 5, which is 13. Valiant Dynamo makes it 14. That's a 3-card 14. Those are good numbers. We like those numbers. This is another one of those cards that really helps synergize. On its face, it's a 1-card anywhere from 3 to 5. With if you ever do get the double swing off of it and the sharpen, it's a 1-card 1 for 5 go again, which we like that. Even the blue, if you're using the same logic, the blue often even still gets around 3 points of value, and it's a block 3, as well as a synergy piece for late game if you ever need to turn on like late game Edict of Steel blues. So all in all, just very happy with this card. Nice synergy piece.
Okay. So Swordsmith to pass, you're running both of them. Sounds good.
Yep.
Yeah.
All right, mine is Toe the Line, and I don't think there's any other color, so it's just a red. It's a 0-cost warrior instant. The next time you would be dealt damage this turn, prevent 2 of that damage. If you prevent damage this way, create a flurry token. This is an interesting one. I feel like it is very similar to some other cards that we've had before from heavy hitters that, I've seen some play in or some play with. If warriors weren't so tied up with their inventory space, then this might be going in. But Chris, what's your thoughts? Andrew, what's your thoughts on this?
This card is amazing.
Is it?
Easy free of.
This is a free of.
Like the best card to compare this to is Taken on the Chin, which for those of you who don't know was one of the heavy hitters instants Will was talking about, which is a 0-cost instant that says prevent the next 2 damage of the next damage source you take. If you do, create an agility token. And in decks where that mattered, like a Kasai, that card was in a pretty easy 3 of, sometimes cut down to 2 depending on the deck composition.
Right.
Toe the Line is that, but flurry. And if we remember earlier, we had that reaction where you can discard it to make a flurry token, or Polished Blade where you can effectively cast it just to give an extra swing. When we consider that Toe the Line lets you get both of those effects, but also block an additional 2 damage on top of it, you'll see why Toe the Line just feels so much better to play than those two. This also really helps Warrior with its issues with like arcane damage as well, because this is a way to get extra prevention without having to have more AV. Now, if there's one thing I have to say to the card's detriment, is that it is phrased in the bad way. If you specifically compare cards like Take It on the Chin to cards like Mental Block, which were released in Rosetta, Mental Block says prevent the next 2 damage you take, which means if you get attacked by like Kodachi, it will prevent 1 from the first and then prevent 1 from the second. Toe the Line is phrased the bad way. It says the next time you would be dealt damage, prevent 2 of that, which means if you get Kodachi, it would try to prevent 2 from the first, and you would then take the second Kodachi. This is annoying. It makes it a little worse to be used against things like Flick Knives or Arachne Daggers. It's still probably an auto 3 of in the deck. Maybe not played as a 3 of in every matchup, but it's still probably included.
Main board or sideboard?
I'd say at least 2. Like, given the Fury generation you need, I'd say at least 2 main board, probably all 3.
Okay.
I would also say if you remember how Zenith Blade works, right? It gets go again if you already have a flurry token, and so therefore this is basically better Take It on the Chin because it is a flurry token plus go again.
Well, you still need to sharpen to give it a go again. But once again, if we're talking math, a common turn that may come up, and that's is you use Toe the Line to get a flurry token. This is also, by the way, one of the ways to turn on the boots, the Silver Stride Dodgers, which those were the boots that, just for a reminder, were temper 1, but they get, if you control a flurry token, get +1. So this is one way to turn those on defense. But like a really common play pattern is if you are blocking, you play Toe the Line, get a flurry token, and then on your turn pitch 1 blue to Holla's ability, and then pitch the second blue to swing twice. Once again, we look at the math. We prevented 2 damage from Toe the Line, so we're at 2. We've swung for 4 and then 4, so we're at 10. Dynamo takes us to 11, and once again, we've pitched a blue, but we still went 1 resource over, which means we then get to use that for Brave Forge or Grains of Bloodspill, most likely, which means this is about that hand of 2 blues and Toe the Line, assuming you get to block as you want to, is roughly a 3-card, like 11-ish, which off of 2 blues is not that bad. Like, we're happy with that. There's also lots of little ways this can help, but Toe the Line it's assuming your opponent is swinging into you at all, Toe the Line just a great way to get more flurry. So
pretty cool.
It's Ning's turn now.
It's my turn? All right.
Sorry, Ning.
No, just Chris was explaining so much for whatever reason. I thought he was going to talk about Toe the Line.
Yeah, Will like talking about toes. Now you can talk about feet.
That's you got me. All right, so Flurry Foot Dance is a yellow defense reaction, cost 0 to play, only blocks for 2. However, it says while this is defending, if you control a flurry token, this gets +2. So assuming you're able to get flurry tokens easily, it's a yellow 4. I don't know how easy it is to have these on ready at the time. I guess with total line, it's possible to do it kind of as an instant situation. But you're not running this.
I could not. So go ahead.
Yeah, no, this is pretty hard to actually meet the conditions on.
I would say this card's probably not seeing any play outside of maybe Sage, and even then, I'm not sure it would make a Sage list. So,
Okay.
Just classic warrior card.
So now let's see. Where's our yeah? You already talked about this one.
Yep.
And the Edict of Steel. Let's see. I believe it's.
Yeah, talk about
Backside
backsides.
of the Blade. Yeah. It's Backside of the Blade's a blue block free. Only comes in blue. Costs 2. Attack react. Target weapon attack gets +1. And if it has go again, you may attack an additional time with the weapon this turn.
Okay.
So what's interesting about this this card is it's blue.
Yeah.
And it costs 2.
Yeah.
The cost 2 is oof.
This card, if this card cost 1, it would actually be one of her best blues. The fact that it costs 2 makes it a little bit prohibitive. At the end of the day, it is still probably one of her best blues. We'll get into it in a bit, but like when we talk about deck construction, Hala will probably be playing a high number of blues. I'm on 27, and she just doesn't have a lot of great options. Especially, she doesn't have a lot of great options for swinging twice on second cycle when your deck is all blues. So this does solve that problem. Ideally, the best way to play this is when you have like a Vigor or a Tunic counter to play a 4 energy turn, because then the 2 cost doesn't matter as much. Once again, if this card costs 1, it would be fire. The fact that it costs 2 just makes it prohibitive. You're still probably playing this as a 3 of.
Okay. Deadly Display. No, I'm just joking. I know we covered that one.
I mean, Will just wants to see the card art
He
again.
wants to see it again. It's okay.
Look at the blood in the background. Just look at the blood
Will's
back here.
just waiting for
Card on the
flame-
next card, man.
Look, just give me. She just looks like a pirate warrior. Give me a pirate warrior, please.
Mhm.
Yeah. Okay. So Olay, I cannot remember who's supposed to cover this. Is this me?
It's Chris's
That's
turn.
it.
Oh, okay.
Like this.
Is Ole.
Olay.
One
Olay.
cost. Remove a +1. One cost blue warrior attack reaction. Remove a +1 counter from target attacking weapon. If you do, create a flurry token and draw a card. And this blocks for 3. This card has been really weird in testing. Because on the one hand, this is one of your best like backup flurry generators. Like if you ever are going first, you can just do this to start your next turn with a flurry token. On the other hand, I've just really struggled to make this ever fit into a cost turn, curve turn on any turn other than that. So for the most part, this card has just been when I'm going first, this is how I create a flurry token to go into my next turn. I've maybe second cycle, it might come up again to help you set up some turns. As I said, one of her current problems is that once her deck is all blues and she's hit second cycle, it's a lot harder for her to create flurries. And at which point you're just kind of like swinging your sword. This is another one that I'm definitely trying in her blue base because she doesn't have a ton of great blue options.
Mm-hmm.
Currently, I have this as a 3 of just because you want to play a lot of blues and there's not too many better options. And as I said, it's a good turn 0 hit. Maybe it ends up being a good like combat trick in some situations. I could definitely see it. There's just some weirdness with it because like you wouldn't ever want to do it on the first swing of a sword because you then create the flurry and then use it on the second swing. And if you do it on the second swing, you're just drawing a blind card off the top and hoping it matters. You also had to probably have done a weird cost curve to even get there. It's unclear if you want to do that. This is all to say this card in testing has been very awkward. It's still probably going to make the list. It's just been a very awkward card to play.
Well, let me ask you a question. Can you only play warrior attack reactions on your turn? Or can you target,
Yes.
like, let's say Dorinthia or Hala swings at you. Can you play this on their card as in their reaction steps?
I like the way you think, Will, but no.
Okay. I was just curious
You can
because,
just say warrior reaction. Ignore the attack or defense.
well, no,
Warrior
they're attacking on their attack reaction step. Can I not help them out? I mean, okay, so I get it. We already covered Edict of Steel. I'll cover Indefensibly Honed. This is the other Majestic, so you get 3 sets of Majestics here, I guess. I haven't seen the rest. 0 cost, 3 block, warrior action card, blue. Sharpen target sword you control. If it has 3 or more +1 counters, your next attack with it this turn gets, when this is defended by 1 or more cards, deal 1 damage to the defending hero. So, that's some words. I think you're going to be playing it anyways, because to Chris's point with the need for blue, and it's a way that you look. Reckless Stampede is how I could kind of compare this card, and that card sometimes sucks for your opponent, right? And they will take that damage just because they have to, right? I don't know. I feel like go ahead, Chris.
I would love this to be as consistent as Reckless, not
Stampede?
Reckless Stampede. Yeah, as Reckless Stampede, maybe even as consistent as Reckless Swing, which is saying something because that card is not consistent at all.
Yeah.
For the most part, this card says blue block 3 that says Sharpen.
Yeah.
So like second cycle, if your hand is 4 blues and you have this and a blue Edict of Steel, you can still pitch 1 blue to hero ability, play this to get a second Sharpen, and then Edict of Steel, and you're still swinging a relatively respectable turn on 4 blues. This also just being a Sharpen means it's a blue that you're not like too upset arsenaling.
Yeah.
You're probably not turning on the ability very much, and the thing is that like 1 damage, you often have to weigh it. If it's like a fatiguey matchup, you have to weigh that often against just pitching it to Hala's ability. So like the only times this is really good to play is either if you had to arsenal it or if you like already have another blue that you're planning to use for Hala's ability. In other cases, you'd probably want to do it. But for the most part, this is a second cycle blue. It blocks 3. It once again doesn't seem like it should be a majestic, but it is. The art's pretty though. This art actually looks majestic. It's just the effect is mundane. Maybe at some point you will use this to kill someone. Maybe Josh Lau will get people to sign it like he signs his routes. I could see it. I thought this would be like a game ender for the deck, or at least an option for that. In practice, I don't know how many times you're going to second cycle even be getting to 3 counters. But maybe. Who knows? Your opponent really has to give you like a full hand. So maybe it'll come up. I don't know. At the end of the day, though, this card does what you want. It says Sharpen on it. It says blue block 3 on it. We're happy.
Okay. Well, here's the Pirate Warrior again.
Oh, shucks. So Shuck is blue action, blocks 3, costs 0, and it just says create a flurry token. And please note, it does not say create a flurry token, go again.
Yeah.
This card sucks. What the heck happened?
Oh,
It sucks. Chris, this card sucks. Oh my.
You may be surprised to hear this is probably going to be a 3 of, if literally just because it's a blue block 3 that on turn 0 is a high roll. That's it. After turn 0, it's very rare that you're going to play this card. Maybe if you do some unsheathed lines like Andrew and your opponent is just not swinging for you into you at all, you can use this at the end of a turn to set up your next turn. There are some weird flexibility angles with it. I can definitely see it coming up, but for the most part, this card is going to pitch or block 3 unless you specifically draw it on turn 0. But on turn 0, you're happy to see it. So,
Dang. All right. Well, oh, shucks, man. I'm sorry to hear.
Our final card here is Visit the Dawnsmith. It's a blue block free 0 cost.
Hold your forks. Holy shit! That's a cat on a muscled ass dude. This card art slaps so hard. Oh my gosh, that's a cat, dude.
That sure is a cat.
Dude, this card. Oh, I'm sorry. Go ahead. I'm playing this card just regardless. I don't care if it's good or not. 3 of, play 6 of, get DQ'd.
Picture of Andrew at the cat.
Dude, like literally, the picture you sent me, Andrew, is a picture of this. How appropriate is they got you in that picture on this card? Holy shit! I'm sorry. Go ahead. I was just got excited.
Yeah,
Andrew, go ahead.
As a saying, a blue 0 cost free block aura. At the start of your turn, destroy this and sharpen all swords you control.
once again, it does not have go again.
Yeah, it doesn't have go again. So personally, I don't think this is like super great, and specifically Hala. I could see some use cases for this in something like Kasai maybe, but not in the current meta.
I could see this as like, I could see this card as like a setup card for like combo Bolton or Kasai. I think this one is going to be the hardest to use actively as Hala. It might still see same gameplay for the same reason Shuck did, which is just it's a turn 0 high roll, and otherwise it's a blue block 3. But most likely, I don't think this card makes the cut. Maybe it does. Who knows? When you look at some of the blues I'm playing, you're like, wow, those cards suck. And I'm like, yes, I know, but I need them to pitch in block 3. And this card does those things. So
yeah, I wish
maybe,
this card was
probably
better.
not, though.
Do you think they forgot to go again? Because it makes no sense that they're not pinning go again on these.
So far, when it comes to armory decks, when it comes to forgetting go again, it's in terms of forgetting to make it a mode. So
yeah. And all I'm going to say is when LS design a warrior card, they first start with a good card, and then they say, how can we take away something to make this warrior card? So I would not be surprised if the first draft had go again, and then someone said, no, that's playable.
That's
We got to
too
take
much.
it down a notch.
Is there anything in the Warrior suite that could give action cards go again? Or
No.
pop as an instant or anything?
No, we're not
you
really
can
playing.
play Diamond Amulet.
Oh
And
God. Well, I mean,
Time stamp potion, not diamond anyway.
okay.
No, we're not Runeblade. We play fair.
Okay. Fair. Okay, guys. So that's the Armory Deck Origins, Hala Origins, as is, right? As is. Popping this off, do you feel like it's as strong as Jarl's Armory Deck Origins when it first came out? Is it comparable to hit that power level as Armory Deck?
I don't know, because Jarl's Armory Deck out of the box wasn't great in a lot of ways too. You kind of needed a lot of improvements to make it competitive. I mean, it not even coming with like Stalagmite was rough, or Oakenold. Hala's Armory Deck at the very least has the core of her stuff. When I look at the cards that are in this deck, and then I look at like the final, like the deck I built of Hala's stuff, I'd say, I mean, let's just, I could just literally do a count. It's like over around 2/3 of the final Hala deck are cards from the Armory deck, probably, which is like pretty respectable, honestly. Like that's not a ton of improvements you have to make personally.
Okay.
I don't know if out of the box this thing is going to be super good and competitive, but I think like for a starting place, like as I think Ning pointed out earlier, this is like an entire Armory deck of new cards, and Hala wants to play a significant number of them. Even some of the cards that I kind of poo-pooed a bit and said probably don't make the cut are still like considerations. Not Flurryfoot Dance, but the rest are.
What do you got against the feet, man? Okay.
You know, it's just never been my thing. But like I think it's respectable. I think the only thing I'm personally really disappointed in is I don't think any of the armor pieces are going to see play in her final build. As I said, the only one I'm considering right now is the arms. And that's just like if you really need to turn on Edict Yellow or Blue and you're not doing it consistently. I could see the arms seeing play. We'll see. And like I get it. You know, Warrior has a lot of great armor already, but just especially the legendary Paragon plate, unless someone sees something in that card that I don't see, which has happened before. I'm not trying to say I'm perfect.
I mean,
and see
the only thing I can see with it is instant payoff for the extra resource instead of like carrying it forward one turn.
Yeah, there's some.
Which will make the black side of the blade a little less awkward to play. But anyways, I don't know. I look forward to cracking this open outside of the Armory deck, sleeving it, and then playing it, seeing what it goes with, you know?
I think on the one hand, they made a lot of very playable cards in here and a lot of cards that really define her as a character.
Mm-hmm.
On the other hand, there's just a couple questionable decisions that maybe they made specifically to tone the deck down. I think the biggest misses to me personally are I think the armor is great for like an out of the box starting armor. I just wish one of them was like actually going to be her final play. I think Polished Blade being a majestic and feels like a trap to new players, and I really hate that. Like I feel like players are going to be like, "Oh, I have to put this as a 3 of this is the cool majestic I got," and I think it's going to be a trap, and I really think that's just frustrating. I have no idea why Flurryfoot Dance is in this deck. Like literally, just put Sink Below instead, please.
Yeah.
You didn't need to reinvent the wheel here, but otherwise, I'm very happy with this. I think they did a really good job with this. Like for the value you're getting, I think you get a good product, and I think the upgrades are pretty reasonable. Obviously, you have to do things like buy Valiant Dynamos, but hey, they're reprinting Valiant Dynamos. That costs go down.
Yeah, it's true. All right. Well, actually, now that we talked about the Armory deck, you know, I mean, 60% of the deck being used is actually a respectable number. I know in our Armory deck, there was a few good cards, but you weren't using a lot of that. So, I mean, I know it's an Armory deck, so there's a lot of reprints too. All right, let's talk about possible upgrades. Andrew, you came up with a pretty good list. Chris, you can yay or nay. This is possible choices. Andrew, why don't you go ahead and rapid fire them? Chris, you can tell us yay or nay as possible considerations, and thumbs up, thumbs down, you know, like the Emperor.
Yep.
All right. Yeah, so first off, here we have Slice and Dice, particularly Red Slice and Dice.
Let me see if I can fix this real quick, because, man, it's making me upset.
If we could add this to
I
the
thought
deck.
it'd be pretty good in this deck, honestly. It's like a good payoff.
Why is this?
Here's the class curve, you know?
Yeah, like you can go like Edict of Steel, swing Zenith Blade, Unsheath. It's a really good turn, actually.
It fits the curve. It's just getting into Arsenal would be awkward, but honestly, not bad. It's a proper two.
All right, yeah. Let's see if this worked. That did not do shit. I'm so glad my freaking password did not pop up. All right, so that didn't work out.
Awkward.
Will's social security number and mother's maiden name are.
It's it's for the car insurance that's expiring.
Can you at least go to the February tab that we had for?
Oh yeah, I guess
we can just type in the card names.
Yeah, you don't need to log in. Just hit cards in the top left. And
Yeah, I
Pull up
love the
slice and
solution.
dice
All
here
right.
for
Slice
show and
that.
tell.
You guys are brilliant. I love you guys.
it's
Yeah.
All right. So slice and dice is the first one. For our listeners, 0 cost red slice and dice. Warrior action 3 block. When you every attack with the sword or dagger this turn, it's your first weapon attack. This gets +1. Second weapon attack this turn, you gets +3. Go again. Chris.
Yeah, I mean, I talked about it. You want to get 4 points of value off of a card. Slice and Dice does that. It also does so while being a block 3 if you ever need to block more. So while this doesn't turn on your, like, it's not a flurry or it's not a sharpen, it does just say on any turn that you're going to swing twice, hey, here's 4 more points of damage if you play it offensively, or 3 more points if you need to block with it. And that is the type of hand flexibility we really like it from Warrior cards. It's also just above rate. And as we said, because you're not trying to force through on hits, it not being a reaction speed really doesn't matter. To just like go through, remember like our Edict of Steel turn. Like if you have a blue, Edict of Steel red and this, you play Edict of Steel red and slice and dice, pitch the blue, swing for 5, then swing for 7. We swung for 12 damage. We had an extra resource left over for Grants of Bloodspill and Brave 4 Bracers. Turned on Valiant Dynamo, all in all. 3 card, 13 to 14 points of value. It just fits nicely with what you're trying to do, which is swing twice with a sword.
Okay.
And if you don't want to play it, it blocks 3.
All right.
Basically like the poor man's Blade Flurry.
Okay, guess what else is probably on this list?
Yeah, right now, like we're looking at the cheaper cards for it, but they'll come in later. But yeah,
Oh yeah,
next
this
we
is
have
under
Piccolo
$20. Yeah.
and Fate for Scene, which are both just 0 for 4 defense reactions.
Mhm.
Yep. And then I think we all kind of know this as a ubiquitous generic defense reactions. If you had to choose between one or the other, would you choose Sync or would you choose Fate for Scene for Holla?
Sync. I think you only really play Fate if you're in a budget list.
Okay.
Yeah.
This is something else.
Yeah. Fate is only ever better in sync in decks that specifically play with the top card of their deck.
Okay.
Like Pirate Puffin, for example. Fate.
Yeah. Or like Kasai played Fate over sync for a little bit because being able to know what card you were drawing when playing like a draw swords turn was mattered.
Yeah.
A draw swords mentioned.
Yeah.
Yes.
Next, we just have some source of arcane barrier. This is going to be a null rune piece of equipment because you're a warrior, and warrior is not allowed to have good cards.
Agreed.
Yeah, so that
But
being
he looks
said,
like a
with
warrior.
use
Look
of
at this
arcane
guy.
barrier,
You got the swords, you got him, he's looking all stoic, fire coming out.
yeah, I don't know which piece of arcane barrier exactly you would go for. You obviously don't want boots.
Yeah.
In the current meta.
It's going to depend heavily on what the arcane decks are in any situation. Right now, the only arcane decks are Cilio and Vincent. Vincent, you never need more than AB1 against, and you'd like to keep your boots, chest, and arms because they're all important to your game plan. So you'd use Null Rune Hood. Cilio, you might as well just run AB0 into him because like either are running AB0 or AB3, and you don't usually want to spend the sideboard slots for AB3, especially because like your life total really matters in that matchup, and armor that blocks will just increase your life total. I'm right now on the plan of just Null Rune Hood, but depending on what arcane decks come into the meta with Omens of the Third Age, I could very easily see this changing. So there's not really a set answer to this.
Gotcha.
Next, I recommend playing some attack reactions in the blue slot that are, good at making big buffs go on. The big one that comes to mind is Overpower. Well, what are you doing?
I didn't know that. I had to look for it, man. I didn't know you clicked the little colors down here.
Yeah. So it's just a blue free block, free cost. Target weapon attack gets +2, but if it's blocked by a card from hand, it gets +4 instead. So this is just a fantastic way to close out games, especially in the blue slot, which is where you want your closing power to be.
Yeah. Warriors generally pick the blue Overpower to go to the second cycle. I think Ning taught me that. Generally speaking, that's where this kind of gets the more value out of it, right?
The general idea is if you're trying to end a game second cycle, as we said, it's a lot harder to get the 2 swings second cycle to break through people and use big hands. Overpower lets you use a big hand, and you kind of get surprise lethal in on people who are just trying to block you out because they have 1 HP left. So yeah, it's usually one of your best second cycle cards in pretty much every warrior.
Yeah. Another good one is a Display of Craftsmanship. This is a blue free block, 2 cost, target weapon attack gets +2. If the weapon has been sharpened this turn, you put a +1 counter on it. So this can easily be like a 2 for 4 in the late game if you already have like the go again going on the sword.
2 for 4. But it also
Yeah.
gets a +1 counter, and if you're going to swing with it again with the flurry and stuff,
Yeah, you
wouldn't
get
that be-
+2, a +1 counter, so that's free, and then the second swing you have the +1 counter, so that's your 4th bit of value.
Oh, I got you. Yeah, okay. Seems pretty good.
Yeah, well, this is a fairly solid card.
Those are pretty cheap for warrior cards, but I know this one.
Yeah, now we're gonna get a little bit more expensive here with Provoke because this card spiked up with the Armory deck coming out. And this one's complicated because it's a blue 3 block, 1 cost attack reaction. If you're attacking with a weapon, this chain link, the defending hero reveals a card from their hand. And if it's an action card, add it to the chain link as a defending card. Otherwise, they discard it. Chris, can you review this card for us?
I could spend a while talking about Provoke because it's a very complex, it's a very interesting card just in terms of how it gets value. All I'm really going to say is Provoke is a really good blue if your opponent wants to, if your opponent has already blocked your attack, Provoke just makes them waste another card. It usually screws up their turn. I've had some games as Dorinthia where Provoke has gotten way more value than it ever should because my opponent wanted to block 2 cards, swing 2 cards. I was playing against a Verdance who was trying to block 2, swing a Felling of the Crown. And because I played Provoke, I took a card to pitch Felling to and just couldn't play Felling for another 2 turns. And it paid its weight in gold. It also is a blue block 3. But I would not. Provoke's not a card you actively look to play. It's a card that if you really need to take a card from your opponent's hand, or if your attack is already being blocked, you add to just trade 1-for-1 cards wise. If your opponent's not ready for it, it's really annoying. A lot of the times though, don't try to force it. That's all I'll say.
Yeah. Next we got Sword Master's Shine. Cool new card from Compendium here. Red free cost 3 block, but it costs 1 less for each +1 counter on swords you control. And it gives target weapon attack +5.
Yeah. So the synergy is pretty written on the card. This card obviously gets cheaper when you have more counters, becoming a free 0-for-5 attack reaction if you have all 3. I will note that this is still worse than Tarantula Toxin. But
yeah, Tarantula Toxin means your opponent has to block, so it's balanced.
Yep, totally. That's how it works. This card will probably see play in this deck, especially from the sense of if your opponent wants to block you out or play slow, this card will punish them because this card gets really good on 4 to 5 card hands where you can hit those 3 counters. With that said, this card is really bad if you're only trying to play 1 to 2 card hands. So this to me seems like it's I have this in my sideboard for right now. It's not quite as flexible as cards like Slice and Dice, but obviously when it hits, it freaking hits. I see this card definitely seeing play. I'm not sure it sees play in every matchup right now.
Okay.
Yeah. And in a similar vein, we also have Route, which is 2 cost, 3 block, red attack reaction, gives target weapon attack +3. And if your opponent defended with a card from hand on this chain link, you get to return target non-equipment card to its owner's hand. Yeah, no, this one's just really good for closing out games, but it is also red.
Yeah. Route is a card that first cycle is not really that great, but if your opponent is at 1 to 3 life, is just impossible to play around in some situations.
Is that Hala on it?
I don't actually know.
Maybe Hala's sister. I don't think that's really her. All right, Saint Havoc, comments down below, man. We need to know who's on the route card.
Oh, speaking of comments, we need to mention Kodachi Fi at least once.
Oh, that's a good point. I love Kodachi Fi.
Fun fact, in Shapeshifter, you can Kodachi Dorinthia and play this on a Kodachi.
Imagine Kodachi Holla.
Kodachi Holla, that's where it's really at.
Yeah, let's see. So next we got second swing here. This is a 1 cost free block. You can only play it if you've attacked with a weapon. Well, actually, no. You can play it. It just doesn't do anything. But if you've attacked with a weapon this turn, your next attack this turn gets +4 and it has go again.
I would say this is probably the poor man's Blade Flurry right now.
Yeah, I put it at budget card, but there are worse cards you could be playing.
Yeah, I agree. Yeah.
Oh, I like this. This is a spicy one, Andrew.
Oh, yeah. Next, we got Remembrance here. Yellow 0 cost instant. Shuffle up the free target action cards from your graveyard into your deck and then banish Remembrance. You'll note one of the weaknesses of this deck is it sucks second cycle after you've lost most of your good flurry generation, and your best flurry generation is Edict of Steel, which is an action card.
Now this is 100% behind what Andrew said. If you hit this, if you're playing a fatigue matchup and you run out of Edict of Steels, your turns get a lot worse. So
how many? 2 or 3 would you run?
Depends on the meta and how often you think you're gonna hit fatigue. If you don't think you're gonna hit any fatigue, 0. If you think you're going to hit multiple of them, probably around 2.
You heard it here first, guys. Get your remembrances.
And amount. There you go.
You see me type my notes? I'm making notes, dude. I'm going to play this deck. All right.
Yeah.
Go ahead with the next
one to talk about here, though, is Nourishing Emptiness. This is a classic warrior card that says generic on it, but it's a red 2 cost.
Also a
3
draw my
block.
card.
Yeah, 6 attack. It's also an Azuri card, you know. But yeah, while there are no attack action cards in your graveyard, Nourishing Emptiness has Dominate, and if this hits, your hero gains +1 intellect until end of turn. So the big thing about this is you'll note that there's no attack actions in the Armory deck. And so this, you just play one of it, and it just works.
No, 100%. I mean, it works nice on your curve, too. For 2 blues plus this is pitch a blue to Sharpen, swing 1 resource for 4 go again into Nourishing Emptiness. 10 points of damage on hit, gain an extra card. Really nice math. Nourishing Emptiness, like until you can get some of the better attack actions, which tend to be a bit more expensive. I know I see them on the list, so I'll let Andrew get to those. Nourishing Emptiness is just a great budget, like one of, to make your warrior deck better in almost every warrior, and it's the same true here. So good call.
It's also a fun little remembrance target.
Valid.
Yeah.
Oh, you saw me write that down, Andrew, or you just
totally. Talking about the Alma, yeah. So the next one, I think this is the most important card if you want to play this deck, is Valiant Dynamo. This deck with and without Valiant Dynamo.
All right, and real quick, let's talk about the art real quick. Thumbs up or thumbs down on this art with the dragon in the background and it like killing something? What do you think? Do you like the new art?
Yeah,
I think it's cool enough.
I like it, yeah. I like it a little better than the old one. Not by a ton, but I like it a little better.
Okay. All right. So, I mean, nothing to talk about here because you said it. Like, you need your
a single person even talk about not playing it. But next we got Blade Flurry here. Red 0 cost free block attack reaction. Target weapon attack gets +2, and your next weapon attack this turn gets +2.
Yeah, I think this is really good in Hala. I'm sorry, Chris, to take your thunder, but damn.
Yeah. No, please keep taking my thunder. I've talked a ton already.
Yeah,
go.
Good.
I mean, I gotta say, man, like you're already sharpening your blade. It's coming and you're swinging it twice with it, most likely. You're hitting it either for 6 or 7, so you're getting the full 4 points of value, but it's big attack numbers, you know?
Okay. The way you just said that made me immediately think, sharpen your blade. You're swinging it twice. Go find out who's naughty or nice. It's the same.
Metal mommy's coming
to town. It's the same logic as Slice and Dice read earlier, just at reaction speed. Blade Flurry is just a great card.
We all thought that she was a pirate, but she was actually a warrior this whole time.
I mean,
other pirate we don't know yet. Could be both.
Yeah, are wearing different clothes. I've already done the comparison.
I'm sure you have.
I love looking at Pirate Woman. But yeah, Shelter from the Storm here. This is just another 4-block defense reaction. It's also the expensive one. This has an instant discard from the next 3 times you be dealt damage. This turn prevent 1 of that damage.
All right. So would you play this over the Think Below, or would you play this in addition to, like, as a sideboard slot?
It depends on the meta.
Yep. Typically, I think in this deck, you're typically going to be playing anywhere from 3 to maybe 9 at the very most if you really want to do defense reactions. Sink Below is the first one you're probably putting in unless you specifically really need more help into Mario. There's another tech card for Mario we could talk about, but like Sink Below is always going to be useful. Shelter is only better than Sink Below into a very specific set of matchups, but the matchups where it's better, it's really nice. As Andrew said, it's more expensive. Typically, I'd say Sink Below, then Shelter is like the second under it, but it really depends on how often you're playing against like Mario's. So.
Sure. Or, like, I guess Cinder's if she ever comes back out. I mean, no need to talk about this too much. It's Iron Song versus.
Well, question is, Iron Song versus or Brave Forge Bracers, what are the pros and cons of each? Because they're fairly similar in price, I think, too.
I think Brave Forge Bracers should be a little more expensive, but I don't quote me on that. I think
Brave Forge is actually the cheaper one because it was in history.
Oh, yeah, history pack is a whiteboard. The short answer, just to shortly go into the two of these to make it clear why this is a bit of a debate right now. I say debate like there's more than 2 people trying to theorycraft Hala right now. Yeah, both of them effectively block 3. One of them's Temper 2, the other one's Battle Worn 2. Specifically, so Brave Forge Bracers is the traditional warrior arm piece. It is Battle Worn 2, so it doesn't get destroyed when it blocks. And it says, pay 1 to activate this. To give your next weapon swing +1 power, do this only if you've hit already this turn. So that means on any of those turns where you had an extra resource, you could turn it into +1 damage with Brave Forge Bracers, which we like. That's a nice little menace. Iron Song Versus is a little bit more conditional. So Iron Song Versus says, activate this. Your next sword attack this turn has on hit create a courage token. with a courage token being just a +1 to your next attack. Iron Song Versus is also temper, which means it gets destroyed if you block with it twice. So typically Brave Forge Bracers would be better because it just never gets destroyed. With that said, Iron Song Versus lets you play some of the best one-card hands in Flesh and Blood, which is what I said earlier, which is I can pitch a blue to Iron Song Versus, swing for 3, and on hit that now presents a Courage and a Vigor, which is a lot to give someone from an attack, which really incentivizes blocking. So Iron Song Versus might be better if you find yourself blocking more and playing more one-card hands, whereas Brave Forge Bracer might be better if you find yourself playing more bigger hands over the course of a longer game. It's not clear which one's better right now. I don't think you can go wrong with either of them. I think they're both fine.
Fair. Yeah. And then we already talked about this a little bit, but go ahead, Andrew.
Oh yeah, you can play Crown of Providence or Balance of Justice. Like they're very clearly better than like the Armory deck headpieces, but you know, at the same time,
A Crown of Justice, if you need to protect your arsenal or get that 5th card, usually against Gravy Bones, I played it a lot instead of my traditional, Scaling Flesh Bag, but Balance of Justice if they're drawing meta, right?
And if you really need a budget option, both Arcanite Skullcap is the true meta budget option, unless that's spiked at some point. And Kabuto of Imperial Authority, I think, is only like 20 to 30, which is the warrior legendary that specifically counters warrior. I would read this card, but it makes me angry. The short of it is Kabuto is only going to be played in a small subset of matchups like warrior mirrors, but if your opponent has Kabuto and you don't, congratulations, you probably lose. It's really that swingy of a card, unfortunately. I wish it wasn't, but you're probably going to need to pick up Kabuto at some point, and it's probably the cheapest of the head options if you just want to start with it. So
okay. And then how about Ripple Away? Sorry to take your thunder, Andrew, but I'm curious about you mentioning the next one.
All right, so in holodecks, you need to play a lot of blue cards, and you want those blue cards to block free. And you need to find some utility for your blues. And so what that means is you can start looking into some of the generic blue pool, even though they're attacks, just to like play their abilities. So Overcrowd here, for example, is a blue that can block from Arsenal.
Synergizes with your Flurry, so.
Yeah, like synergizes with the Flurry. If you're on Iron Song Versus, it synergizes with that as well. If you're on Grains, it synergizes with the Vigor token from that as well. So you can sometimes block with this for like 5, and that's actually like kind of cool for a blue.
Yeah.
And then, if your opponent's punishing you for playing it by playing a Codex of Frailty, are they really?
Yeah. The way I'd like to present this is if you're going to play any other attack actions in the deck, especially blues like Ripple Away, you have to play at minimum 1 copy of Overcrowded. Because if you ever get Codex of Frailties at Frailtied and are forced to put a blue Ripple Away into your arsenal, you will cry. That's just the worst feeling in Flesh and Blood. Whereas if you have an Overcrowd in your graveyard, you can grab it instead, block for 4 to 5, feel completely fine with that. So
yeah. And then I guess one of the things is with the Ripple Away Overcrowded, like if you're playing that, then you would not play the Nourishing Emptiness, right?
Yeah, you have the Nourishing if you play these. But yeah, Ripple Away has quite a few like powerful matchups. One of the big ones being Gravy Bones, being able to deny them their gold off of Golden Tipple or Scuba. You can just break them in the mirror. You can stop the creation of Flurry tokens. Against assassins, you can stop them from creating their Chelicera, which that's just a game on itself.
I didn't even think about that, Andrew. Oh my god.
Yeah, if you're playing against like Victor, you can stop them from creating a gold off their Visit Gold main estate, stop them therefore from drawing a card, and make 1 less might in the process, which, as we're recording this, Yokohama is going on, and the first seed is literally just playing Victor. That's entire game plan is to just play Visit Gold main estate and block.
Yeah. Degenerate Victor. I can't remember what the was calling it.
Thomas called it Goober. Yeah, the world could have known about it
sooner,
okay? But instead you didn't post the video you said you were going to post on Tuesday.
Dude, I downloaded the zip drive. It freaking had nothing on it. Right? You saw it. I took a picture just to prove it to you. I got to go to my work computer.
Yeah. Other things you can include in the deck too are the Blue Fables, because like you're going to pitch anyway. Why not play Heart of Fiendal?
Yeah, the Fables are expensive options. I would suggest playing them if you're the type of person who already has them and just wants to play them in your deck. If you don't have them, don't sweat it. I don't think they're really that big of an improvement. I don't think Hala really has any inherent synergy with any of them. With that said, she's just going to play a lot of blues and she's going to pitch a lot of blues. so they will come up. Eye of Ophidia will help you fix some hands. Though, as Andrew has put it so gently, why play Eye of Ophidia? It just helps you draw more warrior cards. Heart of Findow can get you a bit extra life in a grindy matchup. Authority of Ataya can punish people for running too many defense reactions. None of them are necessary at all.
Okay. Well, how about the key classic one here? Would you play this? I mean, it seems like it would go good with Hala.
I'm talking about Command and Conquer now. Go off the fun blue cards. Yeah, Command and Conquer can be pretty fun. Talking earlier about the Nurturing Emptiness cost curve. One thing I will note about Command and Conquer is it actually works quite well on a turn that you either have a Vigor or you have a chest piece that comes in the Armory deck.
Mm-hmm.
You can do your first swing. That's pretty easy. Play your second swing with some form of go again. You'll see like some lists can play like hit and run, for example, if they really think they're ever going to pull that off. And then proceed to use the Command and Conquer with the one you have floating off of your blue and the one extra resource you have.
How about commanding performance?
I can get to that in a second. I just want to add that Command and Conquer also really just helps because it's a popper. It pulls double duty. Commanding performance, I think, is going to be a meta call card. I actually think it fits her cost curve relatively well. And if there are a lot of Guardians in the meta, I think commanding performances will help. I think this card is not great against anyone who's not really a Guardian or maybe a Brute.
Okay.
This was a card that read a lot better than it played. I remember when this first got announced, everyone was they're like, "Oh, Warrior's Eating so good," and then I played it for like a week and was like, "This card sucks."
And nobody ever blocked.
Yeah, like unless you're specific, like either no one blocked or they just blocked with non-attack actions and nothing happened.
Yeah.
The only way the matchup that makes this card good is Guardian, because Guardian both wants to block and wants to block with attack actions, and this will punish them for that. They also tend to arsenal things like D-reacts. So if you do play the Guardian matchup, especially if they're trying to fatigue you, this card will probably come up. I think this is one of those tech cards that may come into and out of your aid depending on what matchups you're playing at that time and what the meta is.
Gotcha. All right. And then we had one more here, Andrew. And
you're talking about the weakest link? I mean, it's the same thing you'd say about Command and Conquer. Like,
Generic.
yeah, like there are metas where weakest link is better than Command and Conquer. In those metas, weakest link is better than Command and Conquer, so play weakest link instead.
All right. Well, that's a lot of information. And so Armory Deck review, I can see potential in Holla. I'm going to holla out the virtues of Metal Mommy here. All right. Was that reach, Andrew? Like, I'm trying to fit in those puns, but what can I say? Ning, what's your thought? You're dabbling in Warrior now, all right? You played Bolton a little bit.
I think from an Armory standpoint, this deck seems pretty fun, right? From a more casual standpoint, not as competitive. You get to do the things that Warriors have tried to do, but you get to do it in a new way. And I think playing differently to achieve the same thing can be fun to switch things up.
All right, guys. Here's a question. Holla, butter knife, sharpened blade. You had to choose one or the other. Where does she fall? There's no middle ground here. It's butter knife or sharpened blade. There's no middle ground. Butter knife, sharpened blade. Where does she fall?
Can I answer that she ain't no holla back girl?
She ain't no holla back. Is she the butter knife or is she the sharpened blade?
I think sharpened blade. I might be coping because I'm the warrior guy. Genuinely, though, when I've tested and looked at her numbers, she puts out very high numbers very consistently.
Okay.
I was consistently able to get around 4 points of value per card over the course of like a long game of like 8 turns, which is not something I could normally say for every character. Whether that's good enough to win competitive Flesh and Blood, I don't know. Typically, competitive Flesh and Blood, a deck like Hala that is mid-range, that doesn't have any sort of forced interaction or disruption, and doesn't kill people super quickly, typically comes into and out of the meta depending on how fair the meta is, where if there's a bunch of unfair decks, they're unplayable. But if the meta is fair, they end up actually being very good. I think Hala's going to end up somewhere similar to that, where if the meta is like, there's a bunch of unfair decks, Zen's killing people in turn 3, Acilia's blowing people out of the water, Illusionist exists. She's probably going to struggle a bit to be relevant because just no disruption means that if there's just decks that exist in Flesh and Blood that literally say, if you don't disrupt me, I win in 5 turns. And Hala doesn't have much in her disruption. Like, you're going to bring some CNCs, but that's about it. And she doesn't have that spiky ceiling that other decks do. So my answer is she's a sharpened blade. Her numbers are there. She has good math. She can play good flesh and blood. She just, whether she's relevant or not will depend on if there are quote unquote fair decks, if the meta is fair or not.
Okay.
And history shows it's usually not fair. What I would, however, be very interested to see is Hala and Sage, because a lot of her cards are commons and rares. A lot of cards that make her work. All Edict is a common, Blade is a common, and I'd be really curious because Sage is typically more where like fair flesh and blood happens. So I will be keeping an eye out for both. I'll definitely be playing her day one. I want to see how good she is. I will happily die to Lorenzo's Acilio on turn 2.
No worries. Without Volzar, there's no reason to play it.
Yes.
Well, they introduced the new Volzar. We're going to talk about that next week, but
that's going to turn Lorenzo drinking. I've
you
talked
got
a lot.
angry at that, dude. He looked a little angry when he went to grab his beer. Like, I know his angry face.
I've talked a lot. Short answer, a sharpened blade with an asterisk.
Okay. Ning, sharpened blade or butter knife?
The old sharpening blade, huh? Yeah, I mean, I don't know. I think you know, generally, for the most part, enjoy more fair decks. Oddly, I think of all the warriors, she does seem a little bit more interesting to me to play.
Okay. I mean,
just because.
Where's the dice rolls? That's all I want to know. Where's her dice rolling variance? But anyways, Lawrence, sharpened blade or butter knife?
I think right now she's a butter knife, but I think she has the potential to be a sharpened blade.
Well, for those that are coping, better a butter knife than a butter face. Am I right, fellas? Anyways, I think I'm always. Ning,
Are you just making fun of her because she has the mask? Like, come on. That's not...
Well, you know, I'm pretty sure she's going to take off the mask, and guess what's underneath it? Another metal mask.
Oh, yeah, it's a Kakashi.
So underneath, it's actually Vincent. Her and Vincent are the same hero.
Yeah, our Iron Maiden can fit for her very well. Maybe that's Vincent's twin sister. Anyways. Yeah, I think I'm always optimistic about Armory decks. I won't play it, and then I'll come back and give my true answer. But I'll say Sharpened Blade first, but then give me another week to play with it, and I'll be back. Man, this motherfucker's a butter blade or butter knife. You know what I mean?
Yeah, next week's gonna be great.
I don't know. I'm looking forward to it. When's this come out? When's the Armory deck come out? Next week, right?
Next Friday from the release.
Yeah,
on the 17th.
Yeah. Well, other than that, I think it's pretty good. So. All right. Any last shout outs as we wrap this up and conclude it?
Shout out to Jeremy and Kadachi Fi. Also, genuinely shout out to Jeremy who's killing it over in Yokohama.
Yeah. What was his final answer? What was his final score so far?
He's currently 9-3 and we're in round 13, so there's 3 rounds left. So if he wins his last 3 rounds, he top 8s, but he very likely cashes here.
Okay, very cool, man. Jeremy.
Just don't lose.
He's over in Japan tearing it up. That is where Yokohama is at, right?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
Yeah, I don't even know my own. I don't even know the United States' geography, fellas. I know we're on the East Coast, and that's about all I know. And I'm pretty sure. What did I think? That something else was then, like, not the West Coast, but it was the. Anyways, yeah, geography's not my strong suit. So, anyways, you can find me and the Tunic Counter Gamers on the Discord. Will_WI11. Sorry, I totally messed this up. Midnight_WI11. And I guess we'll start setting up a Discord channel for the thing. Like, I didn't know it. I get it. All right. So, yeah, you'll have to walk me through it, fellas. But just so we could have, like, the show notes and all the other crap in there. So that'd be pretty cool. Andrew, I don't know how to do it, but you're going to have to help me. Other than that, I mean, I'm excited for Holla Back Girl. All right. All right.
Today I learned Will was a boomer with technology.
Dude, it's a struggle, man. But I still do it. Like, it just takes me a little longer to execute things. But thankfully, ChatGPT walks you through it step by step. And you can say, explain this more simply. Explain it to like a 5-year-old. It's like, step 1, did you turn on your computer? I'm the person that would call the IT department and saying, hey, my cup holder's broken. And it's actually the CD disc tray that pops out. That's not actually true. I just read that off Facebook. Anyways, so every turn is a decision. Every decision is a story. And don't forget the damn Tunic Counter. Peace. There you go.
Yeah.